Ah, yes. Leave it to the Bulls after having impressive wins over the Grizzlies and Magic, both comeback efforts after being down 20, to follow that up with losses to the Nets and the winless Utah Jazz, who, by the way, were without Lauri Markkanen and actually a host of other players as well. To be fair, though, the Nets have actually looked better than expected. They're somehow 4-4 right now. It's as if they forgot they were in the tank for flag sweepstakes. And then the Jazz, 0-6, the only team that hadn't won a game so far this season. With the amount of parity that exists in the league, you knew they were going to have to win one of those games at some point where they're just going to be on, go off, and unfortunately, it was against the Bulls. Give the Jazz credit, though, because they played a really tough, hard-fought game. Like, even when the Bulls started making a comeback and tied up the game in the third quarter, they could have crumbled and said, well, here we go again. Looks like it's going to be another loss. But they played hard on both ends of the floor. They got hot from the floor, which probably speaks more to the Bulls' poor defense than anything, but shooting 53% from the field, 44% from three, 16 threes in total. They crashed the boards, killed the Bulls on the offensive glass, and yeah, it just wasn't the Bulls' night tonight. Honestly, I don't really know how to feel about these types of losses. Like, this is one of those seasons, at least for me anyway, where I still want to see my team win, or at least showing signs of future potential, but at the same time, it's like the losses aren't that bad either, because the Bulls only keep their first round pick this year if it falls into the top 10. I guess in a weird way, it's almost kind of a win-win all season long, whether the Bulls win or lose. But anyway, what I'll say about this game, and obviously a big thing to add, the Bulls were without Zach LaVine tonight. Zach plays, and the Bulls, they're likely going to win because they really could have used his offense, especially down the stretch. But what I'll say is, I continue to be impressed with Nikola Vucevic and how he's been showing up this season. Like, even in these bad last couple of games, it's not because of Vooch and putting up stinkers like we saw last season. Nah, if anything, he's actually keeping the Bulls in the game. I've seen some people saying he's ruining the tank for the Bulls this season and comparing him to Nikola Mirotic in 2018, where the Bulls won those 7 games in a row, making their odds for getting a top pick that much worse. But yeah, Vooch, 23 points tonight, 9 for 17, still hitting the 3 ball, was 2 for 5 from deep, 10 rebounds, 6 assists, 3 blocks, and a steal, and 0 turnovers. Like, what the hell is going on? Man was trash for a good portion of the season last year. Nobody would touch Vucevic in a trade with his contract and at his age. And now he's more or less looking like the Bulls' best player. He's at least their most impactful player through these first 7 games when you look at his on-off numbers and win shares. Yeah, his defense isn't great, we all know this, but even his defense tonight wasn't that bad. I said this before, but Vucevic playing like this is honestly the best case scenario for the Bulls, because they went from a place where they were stuck with Vooch or having to give up assets in order for a team to take him on, to now I honestly wouldn't be shocked if the Bulls somehow wound up with a heavily protected first round pick in a trade package for him. There aren't going to be many teams that are going to be interested in Vucevic because he either doesn't make sense for them from a timeline perspective or they're already established at the 5, but I'm looking at teams like the Lakers, Warriors, or Suns, teams that may get a little desperate by the deadline, that may pull the trigger to try and bring in Vucevic. Ayo had a solid game, a good bounce back game for him after having kind of a tough start to his season. Comes into the starting lineup with no Zach LaVine, makes his first 7 shots, ends the game going 9 for 13, 25 points, 5 rebounds, and 5 assists. Was the only player on the floor that was a positive in box plus minus. Actually, I take that back looking at it now. Talen Horton-Tucker was actually a +5. Kobe, a very efficient game for him, 18 points on 19 shots, 10 for 19, 6 for 9 from 3, 4 rebounds, 6 assists. Even Patrick Williams had arguably his best game offensively with 13 points, 5 for 11 from the floor, 3 for 6 from 3. Fouled out of the game though, needs to be better when it comes to his defense, but not committing fouls when he's defending his man. But the guy who wasn't that great tonight, Josh Giddey, 15.7 assists, but a -18 when he was on the court, 3 turnovers. His shooting came back to earth a bit. Not saying it was a horrendous game for him, but the Bulls were playing better when he was off the court because the Jazz were continuing to attack him on offense. Like, had Patrick Williams not fouled out of this game, Giddey would not have closed out this one. He got brought in after Pat fouled out. Now, here's what bothers me about this game and the rotations that we saw. In a game like this, where the Bulls are down some guys, you're playing a team like the Jazz, so not a high-stakes matchup. Why is Talen Horton-Tucker getting minutes over Matas Buzelis? And look, I get it. I get that Matas, when he's been out there and the very limited minutes he's played, has looked a bit lost. I get that he came in tonight, the Jazz went on a run, but in a year that is supposed to be focused on player development, your lottery pick from this draft, who showed a lot of promise in the preseason, needs to be getting more run. He needs to be getting more playing time. Let him make mistakes. This is the time to do that. And yes, I know the Bulls sent him to the G League over the weekend to get him some reps, but look, nothing is going to be more impactful and better for the man's development than actual NBA level reps and meaningful minutes. I like THT, but there should be no scenario where he's getting 28 minutes in a game like tonight while Modest gets 4. None. Hell, I would even go as far as to say that Terry shouldn't be getting more minutes over Modest Buzelis. I can live with it because you need to develop Terry as well as one of your former first-round picks, but no, that's a disaster to see Talen Horton-Tucker getting that level of playing time while Modest is yet again putting in 4 minutes. The most minutes he's played so far this season is 9. That can't happen. Man needs to be averaging at least 10 minutes a game if you really want to be focusing on your young players and their development for the future. Anyway, I have some of my piece on that. Jalen Smith. His minutes coming off the bench, they were great tonight, though. He's consistently been good for the Bulls in the early going so far this season. Hustles, crashes the offensive board, spreads the floor, and can knock down threes. Been really impressed with what we've seen from him thus far. Anyway, the Bulls' schedule is looking tough these next few games. Mavs, Timberwolves, Hawks, the Cavs twice, the Knicks. I don't know, maybe this is where the Bulls embrace the tank, or, of course, they do what the Bulls often do and somehow wind up winning most of those games. Either way, I'll be covering it along the way. As always, be sure to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.